Hey guys, it's Destiny, and today we're going to be doing tier list review. And before we begin today's video, I would love to know which character in Star Rail have you all been enjoying playing the most lately? And lastly, if you guys enjoy videos like these, do make sure to subscribe, leave a like to support the video, and now let's get straight into it. So here we are with the updated tier list, and we are going to be looking at just where they placed Anaxa and if any characters have changed where they are personally placed, and how I currently feel about some of the current character placements, if I would personally change some of them or not. So if we just take a quick look here, we have Anaxa, which I believe they actually did another update. So when Anaxa came out, they had an initial placement for him, and then I believe they actually recently changed it. So it's actually, I guess, a good thing that I waited a little bit before reviewing the tier list this time around. But we do have Anaxa. He actually has a rating for main DPS Anaxa, which would be more so the hyper carry version of him, and then support DPS, which would be, for example, pairing him with another erudition character such as the Herda. So we do have two placements for him. And as you guys can see, Anaxa actually has the same placements for his main DPS as well as support DPS for Memory of Chaos, Pure Fiction, and then APOC as well. So for Memory of Chaos, he is 0.5 alongside Acheron and Rappa, which personally I did predict him to have a semi-high placement up here, either in the 0.5 category or tier 1. I was more so looking at 0.5 though, just due to the fact that he is able to attack very frequently when enemies are inflicted with qualitative disclosure. He's going to be able to inflict 2 skills in a row because of this, and then alongside the other self buffs he has, this will further improve his damage output. And if you are playing a hyper carry Anaxa, you could do a team, for example, like Sunday. You can use a character like Robin, a character like Tribby. You can either go no sustain or a sustain. And what's really good about Anaxa in particular, since this tier list does account for E0 S0, so no signature light cones, Anaxa has an excellent free-to-play light cone, which is the Great Cosmic Enterprise. Because of this, this also allows him to have not only build flexibility, but he also has role flexibility when it comes to, of course, being played as a hyper carry character where you have multiple characters buffing him up, primarily just buffing him in particular, such as a hyper carry Anaxa team with characters like Sunday, Bronya, Remembrance Trailblazer, Robin, Tribby, whatever it may be. And then also even when you play him as a support DPS, if you will, he's a very excellent option to pair alongside the Herda due to the fact that he's going to be able to attack as frequently as he does. This allows him to stack more interpretation stacks onto enemies, which is beneficial for the Herda, and then also being able to get more energy for her. And if you do have a character like Tribby on the team, this is also going to be beneficial for Tribby getting more energy as well, due to how many times Anaxa is going to be attacking. So because of that, Anaxa just has a lot of flexibility as a character. Now, his Pure Fiction placement is a little interesting in my opinion. I've seen plenty of showcases with him being able to get 40k in Pure Fiction, and I was also able to get 40k in Pure Fiction with Anaxa as well. So his placement in Pure Fiction is a little interesting in my opinion, but I think they're just waiting it out to see, let's say, the next Pure Fiction. How does he perform there? I still think though he should be a bit higher maybe, especially in a mode like Pure Fiction. And APOC I completely agree with because he is really good for that mode due to the fact of not only his attacking frequency, but him being able to implant every weakness onto enemies is so nice when it comes to just allowing your team to have an easier time on breaking enemies. And then when enemies are broken, you're going to be able to take advantage of those additional buffs and whatnot in that mode. So using him in APOC is a very viable option. I'm not too surprised by his placement right there when it comes to him being a main damage dealer or even a support DPS. I can agree with his placement. I could definitely see him in Pure Fiction maybe going a bit higher, but I think relatively speaking, he has very nice versatility when it comes to just how you can play him, which I think they honestly did a pretty nice job with his kit in particular. I'm personally a fan of it just because of the fact that I do like when characters have more than one role, or rather have more team flexibility than just, I guess, 1 or 2 teams only. So I do like the fact that you can play him as a hyper carry, which is very fun to experiment with, but you can also play him as a support DPS alongside another erudition character. What Anaxa has that's pretty cool in his kit is, depending on how many erudition characters on the team, he will get a certain benefit. which if there's only one erudition character on the team, in this case Anaxa, his crit damage will increase by 140%, which makes it way easier to get a very nice crit ratio on him within battle. And then you can also account for the fact that depending on which supports you use, this can be even higher now. So he's going to be able to nicely improve his crit damage by quite a lot. And then if there are 2 erudition characters on the team instead, rather than getting that crit damage boost, he's going to be able to increase the damage dealt by all allies by 50%, which allows him to nicely buff up the team's damage potential. Let's say you're using him with the Herta and the Tribi. In the case of Herta, Herta is going to be able to nicely take advantage of this to deal more damage onto enemies. Even in the case of Tribi, she could take advantage of this as well, so she could deal a bit more damage too. Anaxa has the ability now to either amplify his crit damage a bit more, or instead, if you do pair him with a secondary erudition, you could provide a very nice damage boost for the entire team, which will be beneficial just to increase the damage output overall. So Anaxa's versatility overall, I would say, is pretty impressive in my opinion. I would love to know what you all think about him, but I personally think he's rated pretty nicely on the tier list. Once again, I would just keep an eye out for that pure fiction placement. And another thing I'm kind of interested in is the fact that he is also alongside Argenti and Jade in Memory of Chaos. Not too sure if I honestly agree with this. I feel like he could potentially be a bit higher than them, or at least by himself in this category, just because of what he's going to be able to do alongside the Herta. Now, of course, Jade is also a very nice option alongside the Herta as well. But one thing that I will say Anaxa has that I really like about him in particular alongside the Herta, his skill is a bounce attack. So it will be able to land multiple hits. And if you are fighting a single enemy, this is very useful as Anaxa will still be able to deal a nice amount of damage onto that enemy due to the fact that his skill is a bounce. All those little bounce hits are going to hit that one enemy. So because of that, he's really nice for being able to assist with single target scenarios. So let's say you're using the Herta and I don't know, let's just say you're fighting Hule, for example. Herta is still going to be able to do her thing, of course, but in the case of Anaxa, he's going to be a very useful character here as he's going to be able to hit all those bounce attacks on Hule, which will nicely benefit the team overall when it comes to just being able to get a lower cycle clear. So because of that, I feel like Anaxa is a very nice option when it comes to what he's able to provide in the single target aspect because of the fact that his skill is bounce, which is beneficial for the Herta as the Herta is a very AoE centric character. Jade is also very AoE centric, so that is one thing I really like about Anaxa that he's able to provide for a Herta team in particular. But looking at the rest of the tier list, there's not honestly too many changes. There are some characters that have the little eyeglass on them, or I guess the little eyeball. We have Boot Hill. I believe they're looking at maybe potentially bumping up Boot Hill. And then we also have Aventurine and Luocha with the eye as well. I believe Luocha, another character they're considering potentially bumping up. As for Aventurine, if I had to guess, it's probably maybe considering bumping him down. Not too sure regarding this in particular. I would have to see maybe another Memory of Chaos phase before I'm able to give a more firm opinion on this personally. He still provides very nice benefits overall when it comes to sustaining a team. Now, some things I did want to note on is I know Phainon dropped, I believe, the last tier list review I did, which I was a little iffy on this drop. Now, granted, we are in a more AoE-centric meta right now, or even just AoE-centric, I guess, bosses that prefer your team to be more AoE-centric. I feel like I just said AoE-centric so many times. You guys get what I mean? The bosses are more catered for AoE-centric characters. So because of that, single target characters can feel like they're not performing as nicely as they used to. But even with that factor, I'm not too sure if I would actually agree with Phainon only being 0.5 above Doctor ratio. Yunli, I still think can potentially be in the 0.5. I think tier 1 is alright, but even last time I said Yunli still has pretty nice potential overall, especially considering the fact that she is able to hit multiple enemies, so that is very useful as well. And then when it comes to the rest of the list, Shui is always a character I recommend revisiting just because her placements are very, very low on the tier list. And even with the addition of characters like Fugue, which Shui can also actually be used with a character like Sunday, I do feel like Shui should maybe get revisited. Even if she only got bumped up a single tier, that's still something. But she's always a character where I'm like, I'm not too sure if she's tier 4 exactly. I'm not too sure about that, but that's another character that I typically mention. And for the rest of the characters, now when it comes to characters like Blade, Jingliu, where is she? Where is Silverwolf? Oh, she's right here actually. Silverwolf and then Kafka. All of these characters right now in Memory of Chaos are tier 2, and I'm very curious once we get the character buffs, which they did mention should be in version 3.4, which will also have the Fate collab, which is pretty exciting. But in version 3.4, we should be getting the character buffs. I'm curious to see how these characters' performance in Endgame will change once they get these buffs. So really interested to see that. If you guys have any predictions on how these buffs might end up going, if you guys think it's a kit rework and how drastic of a kit rework it might be, I'd just love to know your thoughts. And even what do you hope for? What do you hope maybe they add to these character kits when it comes to Blade, Jingliu, Kafka, and Silverwolf? And also if there's any characters you would want them to give a buff to. I personally really want a Zila buff. That would be awesome. I would just love to see her get something for her kit to maybe more suit how the game is right now. But yeah, I would love to know what you all think regarding that. And let's just go to Pure Fiction real quick. Let's see. Okay, so Anaxa does have the little eyeball. I'm guessing they're just trying to see if he should maybe go up or not. We'll have to wait and see regarding that. I did notice though, Blade and Mighty did go up. Now, one thing I'm really interested in is actually seeing them maybe get a support DPS tag if they are paired alongside Castorice. Now, in the case of Mighty, he's still going to be able to, of course, deal a nice amount of damage depending on who the support is on the team. Both of these characters are very nice when it comes to if you want to mess around with a dual DPS Castorice team and have fun with it. Both of these characters are nice in the case of being able to manipulate their HP when it comes to losing HP, gaining HP, and so on. So you can take advantage of their kits when it comes to having them alongside Castorice, which can assist her with getting more new bud. So these two characters, I kind of want them to maybe have that support DPS tag just to see like if they were with Castorice, where would they be placed versus no Castorice? Because if I'm not mistaken, I think these buffs, or rather the up arrow, is because of the fact that Castorice came out and you can pair them alongside her. I did mention this before for the Memory of Chaos tier list, where I do feel like, so in the case of Acheron, for example, she has the partner tag, and a couple of characters do have the partner tag. So for example, Acheron, Rappa, Firefly, Fei Xiao, Jingyuan, Argenti, and so on. So when it comes to this partner tag, I would really like to know where they would actually place these characters without their dedicated partner, if you will. Because I know that the tag does exist, which if I'm not mistaken, if the tag does exist there and you do not have their ideal partner, they would drop, I believe, 0.5 of a tier or even more. But I kind of would like to know just how much they would drop. And this is just a tier list suggestion of my own that I have. It would just be interesting to see the gap between where they believe these characters should be if they have a certain character or if they don't. That's something I wanted to know. But when it comes to just relative placements, I would say a lot of them are in pretty okay placements for the most part. Some characters I would definitely swap around. And I know we primarily talked about Anaxa today, but there's not too many changes, honestly. So it's just mainly Anaxa coming out, which I guess I would just love to know all of your opinions on him, as I need them to add another damage over time character at this point, honestly, because it feels like damage over time is just very much lacking at the moment. So I wonder if the Kafka buff is going to be able to change that, or if it'll maybe require that in another character as well. I would love to know your thoughts on that, if you guys think the Kafka buff might end up being enough depending on what they do with it, or if we might need that buff as well as another character. It would be cool though to get another damage over time character to just assist the playstyle overall. But I think I've yapped enough for today. I would love to know all of your thoughts once again, and I hope you all have a great one like always. If you did enjoy this video, do make sure to subscribe, leave a like to support the video, and I hope to see you all next time. Peace.